Williams, and this is the narrative called One Last Day. Hello. Have any of you ever took for granted something so simple in life like food on your table, your cell phone working, or perhaps just the people around us whom we love? This is a story about myself and my last day with a loved one. Growing up, I have always been carefree and full of dreams. Nothing can really stop me from full gear. I have several brothers and sisters as well as many nieces and nephews to play with or ask advice of if I ever needed to. I have lived in the same house all my life with the same parents, and I have found over the years that very few of my peers can say the same. Now, I know this may seem boring, but the one thing I've always felt that was that security of knowing my mother and father would always be there for me, always love me, and provide a home and food for me. I was the baby of all 11 of us, so naturally I was spoiled, not only by my parents, but by those older siblings, and therefore would always have them in my life. My mother was always the one looking after us, making sure we ate, bathed, brushed our teeth, took us to the doctors when we were ill, and sat up with us on nights we could not sleep. She is your typical old-fashioned mother, but with this sense of humor to go with all of that. Daddy was our big playmate. Like an older brother, he would play with us, sometimes wrestling on the floor to signing a bad report from school, and sealing it in our backpack before our mom ever knew. He was keen like that. Daddy was out of sorts before I came along. I think he may have been 58 before I was to be, and though he had slowed down a bit on the roughhousing, he still made up for that in many ways. To hear my brothers tell it, he would make them clear our land by digging little stumps out of the ground, but he also paid them a nickel a stump, and the girls got paid just to watch the boys, but he never let to the fact. Daddy also was there to help with our homework, but Mom put a stop to that because even though Daddy graduated from high school, he was always telling us the wrong answers. Who knows, maybe he did that to teach us a lesson to do it ourselves. By the time I turned 10, I was all about horses. I dreamed of horses. I woke up each morning thinking about horses. I even breathed horses. So this took me away from the constant attention from my father. He tagged along when he could keep up with me, lugging his portable oxygen tank with him. He had been diagnosed with COPD 4 or 5 years before. And since that time, I had been outgrowing my father and onto what I considered major things in my life. One morning, I awoke to my newest horse, and she had had a colt during the night. My father was on the back porch and sitting as he did frequently. He said, "Hey Brey, I see a stray dog running around in the yard." I looked for a few seconds and realized he was playing with me. My mini horse had a baby, and he had gotten out of the stall and was running all over the yard. I brushed past my father to catch the baby, just as I had brushed past him many times during the last year, not out of any disrespect or lack of love, just because I was a busy 10-year-old girl who had no time to sit and chat. I think of that last day often because it was one of the few I had left with my father. I was to find him in bed one early morning just 2 days after the baby horse had been born. He took his last breath as I sat by his side trying to understand what was happening to him, why he made the noises he did. Even the funeral afterwards gave me mixed emotions. I was not really sure what death meant. Everyone kept telling me Daddy was in heaven now and no longer suffering. I did not realize in my youthful state that he had been suffering and so selfishly. I needed to know why God took him away. Daddy had a full-blown police escort after the funeral for 17 miles back to our house, where he is buried in the cemetery in the back. The taps were played, and all his sons and grandson carried his coffin to the little lane of his resting place. My older sisters insisted on opening the casket one last time before he was placed in the cold black hole that would become his grave. I overlooked them crying over him, and this made an impact on my life. I would rather have remember him where I had seen him, even if that were as he died. I was too young to know he was in that coffin, not until they opened it back up. 5 years have passed since I lost my father, and my regrets have been many. Why did I not spend more time with him? Could I have gotten to my mother faster? Could I have performed CPR on him? Regrets are something we all live with, but I learned that day to never take for granted what time we have to share with our parents or any person whom we love. Time, after all, is out of our control, so we love with all our hearts, and we take time to listen to the stories our elders enjoy telling us so much. Most of all, cherish every moment you have with the people in your life, because tomorrow may never come. The end.